Snooty Podcast.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Snooty Lounge Podcast. We're somewhere a little different today. We right by the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting building, but we're in the spot where my dog Aaron, shout out my dog Aaron, put me onto this room. And to my right, I gotta give him the proper intro. The man with the plan, the play-by-play calling guru. I kind of steal some words that he used a little bit. I'm gonna allude to a couple things that he did, but he talked about a couple teams. But let's welcome Chris King back to the podcast, man. What's going on, man?
Chilling, man. Great to be back here. I know it's been a minute since I last was on. It was like a year, right?
Yeah, about a year. Do you remember what did we talk about the first episode? You remember like the gist of
yeah, I remember. So we were talking NBA Finals. I remember the Celtics Warriors. We talked about that.
You picked Clay, and
I picked Jaylen Brown,
and I picked Clay Thompson.
Yeah. I was kind of playing the opposite side of you, but I think we also talked about a little bit of betting stuff, getting you into prize picks.
Oh yeah, remember the prize picks.
That ship has since sailed. but hey, we're good, man. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy how far you've come, and I hope everybody recognizes that, and I think they do because we shot that off the iPhone, and the couch.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good time, and also I want to give a shout out to the Dayton Flyers. You see the Snooty Lounge Podcast here, the shirt. Shout out to my Stud City kids, but we're gonna get right into it. I'm a Braves fan, as you can see, and he's a Reds fan. Yesterday, it was a very hurtful game for me, but a great game for you. Why has the Reds been playing so well?
Yeah, so it's really been a mix of young talent, and then, you get Joey Votto back. That's obviously good. He homered twice yesterday. Those were a couple daggers in your heart. But then you add Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, look, that kid 2 weeks into the major leagues, he's got 3 home runs, already hit for the cycle, and he's hitting the ball hard. He's going to be a generational talent, and I think, you mix that in with some other key pieces. Jake Fraley, you got Friedel, you got Tyler Stevenson behind the plate, and just that whole squad in general. Will Benson's starting to get right. So I think just the city is starting to believe in the team, and the team is starting to believe in itself, and that's why they're winning so many games. They're going on 12 win streak right now. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, they looking damn good. I remember we was talking smack in the group chat yesterday when I had seen 3 home runs go back to back. I thought we was gonna come back, but Cincinnati Reds are looking very serious. How far? Realistically, how far you really see this team?
So obviously it's early. We talked about it as June, but I think that this team has enough. They have the closer in Alexis Diaz, who hasn't blown a save yet, I don't think, this year. And then you have a decent pitching staff with some young talent, Nick Lodolo, Ashcraft, and now Andrew Abbott has been good. So I think that this team, if they continue to stay hot, I think they can go all the way to at least the NLCS. Maybe we'll have a future meeting with the Braves. I don't know. So that would be nice to see. Realistically, yeah, I think they might flame out probably NLCS, maybe the semis. But I think the Reds really have a shot at it this year, especially in a weak division.
Right. I like the Reds, man. De La Cruz hit a cycle on us yesterday. I was hurt when he got that triple, but life goes on. But let's go ahead and get into the chronological part of how I do these interviews with these sportscasters, man. So you're from Dayton, Ohio.
Yes, sir.
How was Dayton, Ohio growing up for Chris King?
Oh, man. It's hard to start. I mean, growing up, so I lived in a town called Centerville. It's in South Dayton. And, we had a lot of land, me and my family. I have 2 brothers, both parents in the household. That's always great. And we had a lot of land. So we did a ton of fishing, a ton of riding 4-wheelers. I actually just went back home this weekend. We did some of that, so that was fun. But yeah, growing up in Dayton, there's not much to do, man. I'll be honest, and that's where my love for sports comes, is because we don't have much. So when I get to watch my Dayton Flyers play, or the Dayton Dragons, that's our other professional team in the city, which is Red Single A. It was always great to watch that, and sports are big in Ohio, youth sports especially too. So I think that also played a big role in my childhood. I was a baseball player, football, basketball all throughout, but I ended up sticking with baseball throughout high school. Dayton, If I could describe it, it's just boring. But hey, when you move away for so long, I've been out for a year now. It's home, man, and you miss it when you're not there.
Right.
So you go back, and there's always a love for your city and your hometown, and that's why I think Dayton has such a special place in my heart because there's not much to do, because it's so family oriented. It's the Midwest stuff that everybody talks about. It's just when there's not much to do, you can go hang out with friends. That's the best thing to do at some point. So just spending time with friends and family is mostly how you spend your time, and then watching sports, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I want to give a shout out to my uncle. He from Dayton, Ohio. The first time I went there, I was doing the wrestling thing in 10th grade and went up to Dayton, Ohio. He had me running outside the cliche movie stores, but he got me right. But I know you talked about baseball. I remember the time we played baseball. Remember that we tried to play a
home run
2-on-2 type
derby,
of thing?
but
what got you into baseball? What got Chris King wanting to throw a baseball?
Yeah, so my dad is from Ohio, but he's also from San Diego. So his parents were split up, and he grew up in Ohio and San Diego, and that's around the time where the Reds were really good. The Big Red Machine, they won the World Series, and then you had the San Diego Padres, who had Tony Gwynn. So it was a lot for him to like, and my dad loved baseball. So off rip, you kind of start with a T-ball, and then you get into it. But I always had a bat in my hand.
Swinging before he's 2 years old.
I have a video of me being like 2 years old, swinging.
We're gonna put that in the B-roll.
Swinging a bat on a tee. I had a Ken Griffey jersey on, little Reds hat, little bucket helmet. So it was cool, man. And I would say my dad really got me into baseball. And then from there, I was the only one out of my brothers who really stuck with it because I was pretty good at it, better than I was at the other sports. Basketball, the height wasn't really there. I could play, but it was just more defense and stuff like that. So football, I played a lot of football growing up, but then I kind of quit that just to focus on baseball because sometimes the seasons mesh. So I think that's part of the reason why I got into baseball and continued and stuck with it because I had success when I was younger.
What is your fondest memory on the baseball field?
There's a lot, but the one that comes to mind was my first home run.
Oh man,
over the fence.
I want the whole thing. Walk me through that.
So this was my first home run was in inter squad practice in high school, and this was very eye opening to me because I normally never hit for power, right? Like I was a contact hitter. Normally just hit the gaps, hit singles, line drives, low liners, and once I got to high school, I started to see the ball fly a little bit further because people are throwing harder. And so I remember this was an inter squad practice, and this is my junior year, and I remember sitting in a science class right before because I knew it was chemistry. I hated that class, but I knew we had inter squad scrimmage that day, so I'm like, all right, I need to because I was playing behind like some very good talent. Like I had a kid my junior year who was a senior. He got drafted by the Giants, so there was some talent in the outfield. It was hard for me to find my way, and I knew I had to prove something. And I'm in science class. It's like 7th period. After that class, we're done with school and we go ahead to the barn, the stadium. And I don't know. When I tell you this, don't think I'm lying because I actually genuinely believed I was going to hit a home run that practice.
I believe.
And it's crazy. People talk about speaking things into existence or visualizing things into existence. And so I step up to the plate. We're in the inter squad scrimmage, and it's 0-0, bottom one, and I think there's 2 down. I'm the third hitter. We had a big enough team to play 9-on-9, so it was cool. And I remember getting into a 3-0 count. It was a 3-0 count.
So you're supposed to eat the next pitch, technically.
Right. I'm technically supposed to take, but there was 2 outs. Oh. And it was inter squad scrimmage, so it was like I had nothing to lose, right? He throws me a fastball. I drill it foul. So just destroyed it foul, like a line drive past third base to the left side of it. So I'm like, all right, I'm on this. And 3-1 count comes. I'm expecting him to come back with a fastball because otherwise he's going to walk me. The fastball comes right down the middle, and I sit on it a little bit more. I take a big stride, and I just crush it. and I crush it, and I'm seeing it fly, right?
Right.
But me, I never hit for power, so I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, this is a double in the gap. I need to get on my horse. So I'm sprinting. I remember my first base coach was like waving me to go to second. So as I'm going to round it, I look up and the ball bounces in the parking lot. Like like I'm so confused. Like I have such joy in my body. Like it's so hard to describe that feeling. Like when you see the ball behind the fence bounce in the parking lot, and it's like, oh my god, I just homered. Excuse me. So we did that. I round second base. Everybody's high fiving me. Like they're my teammates. So at the end of the day, they're going to be happy for me. And I remember stepping on home plate, and it was a great moment. So that's probably my favorite baseball memory. And then unfortunately, my teammate that got drafted by the Giants, he hit a solo shot the next inning. So it was great. It was great. He tied it right back up. But I was like, dang, he's not gonna let me shine. And it's all good though. We had a great time in high school.
Before I move to the next topic, you prefer bat flip or just running the bases when you hit a home run?
So normally I wasn't that aware that I could hit it out. So what I would do is, if I hit it and it was looking good, just throw my bat and run. That's it. Yeah. And I think I love watching bat flips. I think bat flips are really cool to watch when people know they got a hold of one, and it's like, all right, they get a little bit of time to show off a little bit. So I'm definitely a fan of the bat flips nowadays.
Yeah, I'm rocking with the bat flips too. And also, he is a great baseball mind too. So hey, if you ever want to get some baseball tapes, hey, follow my dog Chris King. But let's get into this play-by-play aspect of why everybody at Full Sail see you doing the play-by-play calling and swagging out. I know you did some play-by-play calling before. Where was that, and how did you start? I know I was a double barrel, but rock with it.
Centerville High School. That's where I went to high school. Obviously, I told you about that. And we had a radio program called WCWT 107.3. So it had a nice rhyme to it, nice ring to it. But yeah, so Mrs. Rapak, that's my program director in high school. She was one of the first ever women in Canada TV. So she knew what she was doing. She knew how to teach us. And I was actually 16 years old. I remember it because we couldn't join it until our junior year. But I was a young high schooler, so I was like 16, going on 17 or whatever. And my first game I got to call was a women's basketball game. So my junior year, I did women's basketball. And then my senior year, I ended up doing football, men's, and women's basketball. So that's where I got my start.
Dissolve on everyone else. Aaron Lee on the drive. She kisses it off the glass for two. 12 to
That's where I got my
nothing.
start. I knew I wanted to do play-by-play because, I don't know, I just always had the idea in my head that I wanted to be around sports regardless if I wasn't playing. You know what I mean? And so I remember actually at like 9 years old, I was recording like voice memos of me doing games on the TV.
Please tell me you got a clip. You got some clips of that.
I don't think so. I think it's long gone.
Y'all.
It's probably on a long lost iPod or something like.
Fair
you know
enough.
what I mean? But I think that's what really gave me the motivation to do it. And then once I actually put on the headset and started calling games, the flow kind of seemed natural. Obviously, there was some nerves in the first couple games and some mishaps, but at the end of the day, like I just was on top of the flow right away. And then you talk about doing play-by-play. Well, I was doing radio play-by-play, so these people can't see what's going on. So I have to be overly descriptive.
You gotta basically color it out for everybody.
Right,
with words.
exactly. So that's what I was doing. And I think I did a pretty good job at that. And Mrs. Rapak had the trust in me and put me on football, and then both basketball teams. Yeah. So.
How are you prepping up back then? Because I know your preparation is a little different now, but how were you prepping for the games back in the day? And you're 16 years old calling games.
So basically, thankfully, the conference that my high school plays in, the GWAC, they have every stat. And that's so crucial in high school because, sometimes people don't keep track of that. We would print out the stats from both teams, and I would just make a whole sheet of notes. So then I would divide them. I would do one side Centerville, one side the other team. And I would just look for nuggets about certain players, like, oh, who do they have offers from, if they have any offers, what's their backstory. I would talk to coaches, some of the coaches, because it's a high school, so we could just go talk to any of our coaches during the day because they all teach there. And then so I would do that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to call baseball because I was playing, but yeah, that's how I got my start, and then that's how I would do my notes. I would just do 2 columns and then just write out the stats and stuff.
You can no question this next question. What is your most embarrassing moment calling a game back then?
Back then?
Yeah.
Okay, I got one. So, not a lot of people wanted to do the games, right? Because, people wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And even the people in my program, they wanted to be at the games. They wanted to be in the student section for the football games, the basketball games. So, I can't blame them, but this was just a different mentality that I had. I knew this was something I wanted to do, so I didn't care about being in the student section for these games. I wanted to be on the call. Everybody that's at their house listening, I wanted to be the voice for a couple of years.
Lit.
And I remember football season, my senior year, we had nobody to do it with me. We had 0. Like, the people who were doing the games with me my junior year, they just only wanted to do basketball. They didn't want to do football. And so my teacher ends up finding a replacement. And it's a young lady, and she's new in the program, just a junior. And we go for the first football game, and me and her just didn't mesh really well, there was just a barrier there that I think I just had the one-up on experience. And so,
Okay.
it's not to say anything bad about this particular young lady. She filled in when there was nobody else, so I appreciate her for that. So there was just a lot of dead air when that happened. So, obviously when you're doing play-by-play and you are trying to carry the broadcast by yourself, it's difficult.
Right.
Even when you have somebody with you, and they might not be talking as much. I think she was maybe just nervous, which I understand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there was a lot of dead air in there, and some points that were made that yeah. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I would say those are some of my embarrassing moments. But hey, you gotta live and learn. So it's fine.
Trust me, I be messing up all the time. I probably messed up 3 times in this interview already. But I know the path for you to get the Full Sail was a tad bit different. I know with COVID and the play-by-play, and you had to stop calling games.
Mm-hmm.
You explain that a little bit better for me.
Yeah, so I went to the University of Dayton. That's obviously, my home city school.
Shout out to Dan Patrick.
Yeah, Dan is a graduate. So I went to University of Dayton, and I went there right after COVID hit. So my senior season got taken away for baseball, and I didn't have graduation. We did like this little parade graduation, which was
It's up for y'all with the COVID
Exactly.
and like how they did y'all schooling situation with that.
So I went there to the University of Dayton and joined their broadcast media school. It's kind of like this, but definitely a step down below Full Sail, right? And the way we would be able to call games it was like based on seniority, but they wouldn't allow us to do play-by-play. They paid a guy to do play-by-play when, that's obviously something I wanted to do. So why would I just do color? You know what I mean? So I tried it. I did color for one game. It was Morehead State versus Dayton baseball, I remember, and that was a fun game to do. But that was the only game I got because you would sign up for games, and then it was COVID. So if a team got COVID, the game would be canceled. And I signed up for 5 to 10 games, and I only got one, and it was only color commentary. So I knew from then on, I was like, all right, I think I need to make a change. Even though I have so many friends at UD still and love the University of Dayton, my whole heart. Love that campus. It's great. Well, obviously, still love the basketball team. But I just knew it was time for a change, and then I made my way down here to Full Sail, and it's been everything I've ever wanted.
Oh, for sure. So before I really get into the Full Sail, before you start doing play-by-play calling here, how many games did you call total before you got to Full Sail, if you can just guess it out?
Whew. I think with me being the play-by-play, so before Full Sail, I'm going to take a guess here. So it's probably like 10 for the one football season I did, and then I was probably sitting around 50. Okay. Maybe give or take. 50 is my answer because I did 3 basketball seasons and then 1 football season, so that's probably around that range.
So you go from Ohio, you come down here to Florida, and we meet in psychology of play and creative presentation. Then month 4 hits. We go to intro to sportscasting. What was that feeling when you first got in that chair, week 4, and like you're calling the highlight of the game? Like, what was that feeling like when you?
Let me be honest.
Hell yeah!
It was like holy shit. My bad, and I don't. You can bleep that out. But it was like holy cow. Like it was so much nerves, and like I'm literally up there because we never did this at UD. We never did this at Dayton, and I'm up there trying to do this baseball highlight because everybody else was doing either football or basketball. I just wanted to do baseball. Football. Yeah. So I wanted to do baseball, and my first take, it was awful. Like I don't even want to watch it ever again because it was that bad. But like that's the thing is like you go and you learn, and the second take, I listened to the feedback from my professor Eric Rutledge. Shout out to Ruddy.
Hold on, right quick.
Guy.
Ruddy, you my mans. Every time I see you, we gotta dap up and make the good noise. And I'm gonna send this clip to you. Shout out to Ruddy, the man.
That's my guy. So he just came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you got to look at your shot sheet," and told me just take a deep breath, give me a little bit more energy. And then the second run, I feel like I did a good job.
Yeah, you did.
I did pretty well. And calling the highlight, it was fun. But I was definitely nervous and a little shaky.
See, I think with most of us, including me, what we do is the first time we go on there, you cut the highlights, you get everything prepped, you get your sheets and all that for the game. But when you're looking at the highlights, you're not looking at the shot sheet at all. You're literally calling the highlight, looking at it on the monitor instead of looking at all the notes that you had, the play-by-play calling and all of that. It's just the nerves of the feeling. I remember my first time, I was, whew. Yeah, but we get through it. Yeah. But I know this program. I know you're pretty further along into the program. What classes stuck out to you that really made you like, I really needed them?
I really needed Mike Stinton's broadcast writing.
Let's talk about it.
Because I remember making my script for the intro to sportscasting. Now, Mr. Rutledge didn't tell us, he didn't tell us what a proper he just let us rock.
Right, he just let us rock, right.
Because that's our first assignment. Like, he didn't want to put many restrictions on it. That'd be too much for students.
Right.
So, once I really got into Mr. Stinton's broadcast writing class, it was like, okay, that's how you write a script. That's how you be creative. That's how you tie in certain make bars and stuff like that, and add some flair to your writing. And also not write as much, right? You want to keep it concise. That's a big word in that class. So that one was big. I think Lee's class, Lee DeJarlis,
one-man army.
I think he did a great job of just teaching us our equipment. And I think those two are the ones that really stand out to me because that was like entry level sportscasting, real sportscasting, and preparing us for what we need. You know what I mean?
Right, because if you can't broadcast right, it's going to be very difficult for you in this industry if you can't write a precise script.
Right.
Let's get into the play-by-play calling aspect. What was the first game? No, matter of fact, how did you find out about Full Sail in the games? How did you find out about calling games at Full Sail?
Well, I knew that they had play-by-play, and I wanted to start with probably basketball, which is what I did because I was gone. I was checking out my little brother's high school football season during volleyball.
I was hurt when you left, man.
During volleyball season and soccer season, so I didn't get to do those games. But I knew that they had a seminar for those. So when they brought around the basketball seminar, I remember sitting in that seminar, and then they were doing open tryouts, pretty much, and it was the Duke North Carolina game. I remember writing down notes. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, we were in the studio, and they had it on this big monitor, and they had 2 chairs and 1 mic in the middle, and you got to have a color commentator. Well, for me, it was like the last opportunity for somebody to go up. Like he was like, all right, this is our last one. Gus said that. And I'm naive, but I raise my hand and I get picked. And I remember Gus asking me like, so what do you want to do? And I was like, play-by-play. And then like right away when he asked, what do you want to do? I was like, play-by-play. I'm doing play-by-play. Like I wasn't going to let anybody else or my color commentating partner that stepped up to the tryout with me, I wasn't going to let him do it. I'm play-by-play. So I step up there, and ultimately it was the last couple minutes of that game, Duke, North Carolina game. I think it was 2022 Final Four maybe.
I don't want to guess wrong.
Yeah, Final Four. So that game, 2 minutes left, and it's just a free throw contest. Like there's no action. Like they're just getting fouled, and I'm like, oh no, this is a lot of dead air. So I had to just stay calm, peep my notes, and me and I think it was Spencer Collins who did the game with me, and we carried it well. We carried the broadcast well, and I got pretty excited when I think it was North Carolina who won. So that right there is when I think I showed that I could really do it. And then my first game was a women's basketball game. I can't remember who it was. It was Rollins and I think it was Barry. Yeah, Rollins and Barry. Yeah, Rollins and Barry women's, and then from then on it was just boom. I was just getting games left and right.
And I went to a couple of your games and seen you do your thing out there. But I know when people do play-by-play calling, like people just assume that you do regular stats. Like you got to have rebounds, points, and all of that. What are the other notes are you putting into your play-by-play calling when you're calling the games?
So for me, it just depends on the level that you're on. So obviously high school, you kind of want to get like, okay, what kind of accolades do these people have? Have they made all first team conference? And that's a similar thing you do with college, but high school is more of, okay, this person's offered by this team. So just creating storylines, that's an underrated factor of play-by-play. You have to have a good storyline behind things because you're going to have dead air. And for me, I think at the college level, or we did the little JUCO shootout where you called a game. It was also the storylines of who do these kids have offers from, or where is this kid from. I love looking at the hometown of where people are from because that can tell a story in itself. So that, obviously talking to coaches and getting some interesting stories. So I think just the storytelling aspect is something that goes beyond the points, the stats, the rebound, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think just storytelling is a huge aspect of play-by-play.
I completely agree. Storytelling, you got to be able to have some swag and tell a couple stories. What is a memorable call that you made, like in a game? Like I remember when you were talking about the college players and the jerseys, like they couldn't afford jerseys in college. What is a call that you made that was, that just sticks out in your mind?
There's just been so many of them. I think that one of my favorite calls was back in high school. I don't even really remember what I said, but one of our kids, he's going to play for Indiana next year for basketball. I remember he was like a freshman. He banked a half-court shot in to give his team the lead at halftime, and I just remember just getting really excited for that one. That one was good. I think there was a game-tying call for Rollins. A guy, John Latimer, hit a mid-range shot to send the game to overtime. That was good. The JUCO shootout, I had some good ones. I liked a couple of them where, I said butter or stuff like that. Or there was one that's on my Instagram now. I was like, nice spin move, left-handed, and the foul, like stuff like that. So
Tara, nice spin move, left-handed, and the foul.
Just putting good calls together are some of the more memorable ones, and I can't wait to get my full play-by-play reel once I'm done with all this.
Yeah, I gotta make my reel one day too. But what is one of the most? I'm gonna try to word this kind of the right way. I hope you understand how I'm trying to word this.
Right.
What is one of the most memorable lessons that you learned here at Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. It don't have to just be play-by-play calling. It could be just, like for me, I'm going to just keep it real with you. When I was in Robert class, when we could change MOB to MP4 by just renaming the file, like, that was just like, wow. Like, what has been something for you in this program that you learned that was just like, glad I learned that one?
I think it goes to Christine's class. I just had her.
Yeah.
And she would always tell me, even before I had her, Christine Wynn, even before I had her, she ran the JUCO shootout, and she told me that I was very choppy. And so I get that a lot, or I got that a lot in her class. I never really understood what that meant. And Kevin Nagandi actually said it about me too. So
shout out to Kevin. I want to meet you.
So he gave me that feedback as well. So I was like, just kind of beating myself up over it. Like, how do I fix this? Like, if this is the thing I need to work on, I need to perfect it right now. And basically, Christine just helped me with the pacing of stuff and not pausing as much and just continuing to let my words flow. And with that, I remember it was our last class, and everything just clicked. And she was like, "That's the best I've heard all month." And like that stuff doesn't I don't take that lightly. Like compliments like that is really important for the self-esteem, because I'm hard on myself. I'll be the first one to admit it. Like if I mess up a call, I'm thinking about it for the rest of the night. If I am messing up a performance, or if I stumble on something, then I'm beating myself up over it. So for her to just give me some praise there in that aspect and be like, "Hey, you did a good job working on it and fixing it." And since then, you know, I've been practicing at it, and I think I've done a better job at not being choppy. So.
You have did a great job of stop being choppy. The first thing that came to my mind was Braves, chop on. I don't know why that
Hey,
popped
do you see the Reds fans yesterday? They were doing it. They were mocking you.
Yeah.
We'll check the score after.
I'm going to just try to erase. So let's check the score. Hold on. Let's check the score right quick. Hold on.
What
Literally
we
in
got?
game. We got right now, it is, I got to refresh the screen. Come on, refresh.
Come on, Reds. Come back, kids. Come on. Talk to me, Cincy.
Service chopping me up. But if it comes back in,
if it comes back,
okay, 6-4, bottom of the fourth.
6-4?
6-4, bottom of the fourth. Y'all scored 2 runs in the second, 2 runs in the fourth. And we got 1 in the second, 2 in the third, 3 in the fourth.
Oh, wow. I can't believe we came back again. That's crazy.
I don't know. I'm already getting a little nervous. But
they got to keep the streak alive, man.
But I know you love play-by-play.
Right.
And it's many other things we do in this program. We make packages, commentary, and a bunch of other stuff that I'm trying to act like I know the name, but I forgot it off the top. What is something else that you like other than play-by-play calling? Because honestly, you may not get the play-by-play calling off the list.
Right.
So what are some other things you may want to veer into?
So what I really started to like is, and we don't really get as much opportunities to do them as much as you do later on in the program, which is just calling highlights. And because that's how you get your personality out there. You know what I mean? I hope, you know, down the road for future Full Sail kids that go into the Dan Patrick School, they can do more of it, because, you know, the rest of it is just, we got to practice on our own until we get to those big classes. But I think doing the one in Mike Stinton's class, that was my second time ever doing a highlight, and I freaked it. I think I had a line in there like, "Oh, somebody get the Bills a zookeeper, the cheetah's on the loose." That was one of my favorite bars I had. He's got an opening, and somebody get the Bills a zookeeper, there's a cheetah on the loose. And it was Tyreek Hill, obviously. So just to play on words, and I like showing that artistic ability, because that's art to me, like being able to write. And then also being able to perform what you write. So that stuff I really like. I do like performing in the studio, even though like the past couple of classes have just been vocal stuff. I like performing in the studio. So I'd say calling highlights in the studio, or just doing a highlight.
Okay. So I'm going to go with a couple this or that. Like, you know, let's say like eggs or bacon or something like that. Let's go ahead and do it this or that. Okay.
Do it.
Editing or live shots?
Go live shots.
Highlights or commentary?
Highlights for sure, yes. Commentary, yeah. I know that's very vocal, like focuses on your vocal ability, but there's nothing like doing a highlight for me. I love it.
Ruddy or Stinton?
Oh my, that might be the toughest question out of all these. Man, I'm gonna have to go with Stinton because he's a Atlantic 10 basketball fan. He likes the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. I'm a Dayton Flyers fan. You know, we've had our battles in the past couple of years, and actually, when St. Bonaventure beat Dayton last year, he shot me a message. So he was talking his talk, but you know, we'll get him again this year. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Stinton for now. But I love them both.
Okay. My last one, Dayton, University of Dayton or Cincinnati Reds?
University of Dayton by far. That's my actual city where I haul from. Cincinnati is my neighbor city, so that's why we root on the Reds. But for sure, definitely University of Dayton.
See how I'm thinking about this? This gets me right into the next thing I wanted to talk about because I know you are a Dayton basketball fan.
Big time.
So let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit. When Obi was there in Dayton, what was the atmosphere in Dayton when Obi was there?
Obadiah Toppin, man. where do I start? I mean, guy literally might be the best player in the University of Dayton history. Like, that's not any over exaggeration. Yes, we've had our great players in the past. You know, Don May, Roosevelt Chapman, and you know some other guys. But he literally took that city and put the city in his pocket. Like it was that crazy what he did for us. I remember, so Obi came in and had to redshirt his first year, so he didn't play because of some academic thing or whatever, and nobody really knew what to expect. The team was bad the year before because this was our head coach's first year, Anthony Grant, and so Obi's sitting the bench, and we have a bad season. Okay, whatever, we're getting our good players now from the new coach. I remember the first game, it was versus North Florida. I was sitting right behind the bench. I have a picture of me sitting right behind the bench during his first game.
We'll B-roll that.
Yes, during his first game. And he made this transition between his redshirt freshman year to his actual freshman year or sophomore year or whatever it is. And I remember him going out there. He put up like 16 and 9 his first game, something like that. Or like 16 points, something. And I'm like, yo, this dude is good. Like, I remember he caught a pass baseline and just went up and punched it hard. And I was like, yo, that kid might have something. And so that season went on. They didn't make the tournament or anything. They kind of didn't have much depth. But then comes the 2020 season.
COVID year.
Yes, 1920. And he was on draft boards, like he was like projected to go late second round, and that's when they went to Maui. They're undefeated. They go to Maui. They play Georgia and Anthony Edwards, the Bulldogs.
Remember that.
And Obi scores like the first 12 of the Flyers' 14 points. Like he came out on fire. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, yo, no way people thought Georgia was going to win this game. We beat them. We ended up beating them by 19 points, or Dayton ended up beating Georgia by 19 points. They go to the next game. Obi had a crazy style line. They go to the next game, beat Virginia Tech, beat the brakes off. And then they go to they go play Kansas, and Obi is just lights out again. That's 3 games in a row. And that's when everybody started to give UD and Obi some attention that season. So after that, you know, they did lose that game to Kansas, but Obi had 20-some points, hit a couple of big threes, and just showed that he belonged and showed that he was a top pick in at least the first round.
Just really quick. When did you realize that Obi was the best player in Dayton? When did that moment hit for you?
That moment hit for me when he and the Dayton Flyers got their ranking, their final ranking in 2020, which was at number 3 in the country. That team won. I think they won like 18 games in a row, and maybe it was like 20, 22, something like that. They didn't lose a game in the conference, and sorry, I had to.
I'm looking at the stats anyway.
But yeah, so those guys went 22-2, right? And that's when I really knew that, like, hey, this guy really, he didn't, I wouldn't necessarily say carry because he had a great team around him. Like, they had great players. A.B. Watson, Jalen Crutcher, great guards, Rodney Chapman, and others. But, yeah, that team was tough.
Yeah, I know a lot of people honestly would have thought that Dayton could have won the whole thing in 2020. Yeah. But let's wrap a bow on this conversation. I know Obi is in New York right now. I know Carlos has been a little iffy about this situation. Where do you see, how can Obi really get to where you think he can be? If you understand I think you understand how I'm saying it. How can Obi get?
So I think with Obi, I think he just needs a bigger role. I think Obi is a great talent. I just don't
outside of New York?
Yes, outside of New York. I think he needs to leave. No matter what it is, I think he needs to request out, get a trade, figure something out there.
How do you feel about that that verbal with Tibbs? That audio.
If it's real,
your reaction.
If it's real, I think Obi has a point there. It's like, all right, this guy has been just basically rotting away on New York's bench for 3 years. For 3 years, he's been in the NBA, and he hasn't been able to show what he was able to do in college. So I think definitely he needs to figure out a better situation for himself. I know they just signed his little brother to a 2-way contract, so that's interesting. So we'll see if there's really any bad blood there. But hopefully he can get out of New York. All Dayton fans want him out, so it's not just me. I think a lot of the Dayton Flyer fans want to see him flourish somewhere because, hey, he was a top 10 pick, bro. He wasn't late second round like Prince. No, this guy was a top 10 pick. They picked him with their top 10 selection, and they've just been letting his talent go to waste, in my opinion. Because when Julius Randle's out and he plays and actually starts, he's a great player. Like, I think the number is somewhere in the 20s, 20-some points and like 5 rebounds or something, what he averages when Randle is out. So I think he could definitely find a role somewhere else.
Okay. I want you to put your big brother hat on right quick. Mm-hmm. So, it's a lot of students who come into Full Sail, and August is the biggest, when the most kids come in because they're just leaving high school. What would you tell that youth kid who came in for Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting to expect out of the program?
I would say prepare to work. I think there are some classes and some weeks that really get tough, but I also think that there's some weeks that get easy. But that just comes with it. I think just lock in, and they're coming there for a reason, so why not show it? And I think that's something that you've been able to do. I think it's something a lot of our classmates have been able to do. So just prepare to work, but also have fun. Like, I've been enjoying this so much, and the relationships we built. So
that's, man. Remember I called you and told you yesterday, I'm gonna look at the camera right quick. The first episode I had somebody set up for the interview, and he backed out. And I called Chris King on the spot, and he said, bruh, don't worry, I got you. And if it wasn't for that day on June 3rd, I don't know, honestly, if I ever would have started the episode. So I told you yesterday, I got to say on camera, bro,
my God.
Bro, I thank you so much for helping me start the genesis of this journey of Snoop Lions Podcast. But for you, what I want to know is, you're graduating around December. Mm-hmm. So the 5 and 10 year, just kind of quickly though, I'm sorry, but a 5 and 10 year plan, Chris King, when you graduate in December, I want a 5-year and 10-year
plan. 5-year plan is to be on air somewhere doing college basketball. There's so many streaming sites now, and a ton of these schools have ESPN Plus. So, look, I love college basketball. You know that about me, and a lot of people know that about me. I'm probably the only guy in this program who prefers college basketball over the NBA, but I do. I don't know why, but I love college basketball, and that's my dream to do play-by-play for college basketball.
Sure.
So that's 5-year plan. 10-year plan is CBS Sports, TBS, TNT, doing the NCAA tournament. I'll be there doing the Final Four. Jim Nance, he just retired. I'm going to be the new one. So
there you go. You saved me, bro. Hey, I want to give a shout out to CBS 44, Reese, Joshua Roden. Thank y'all so much. Like, y'all always pick up the phone when I call if I got questions. I remember when I was in conjuring class about the packages, pause, that you helped me learn how to make a profile package on someone. I really want to say thank you so much to Reese and Joshua for believing in me for me to still in college now, and you're going to let me start the job in December. Thank you so much. But to Chris King, who always saying some great things. Any shout-outs, brother?
You know what? I'm going to shout out Tumani Kamara. He just got picked by the Phoenix Suns, former Dayton Flyer. Gave us some great minutes these past couple of years. And, you know, that dude's so humble. I couldn't be more proud of that kid just living out his dreams and getting picked to Phoenix, who has a shot at winning the title this year with, you know, they just added
Easy
Beal.
money, sniper.
They just added Beal. They got KD. And, you know, obviously still have Book, but you know, you add Tumani Kamara to that fold. He's a great defender, and you know, I think they can go somewhere with him. And you know, the Suns have a little bit of a fan in me now. You know, right. I gotta get a Suns Kamara jersey.
Plug in your socials where we can find you at. Plug in the socials.
So Tic Toc, Wasian CK. You know, that's also a big thing. Shout out to my yai. That's Grandma and Thai, who is from Thailand. My mom's from Thailand as well. So that's where I get the Wasian thing from. So Wasian CK on TikTok, Christopher King with a 1 as the I in King. That's my Instagram. And then YouTube is Chris King PXP. Got some of my highlights on there from some play-by-play stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you can go Twitter. I have Twitter. It is Chris__King5. So that's what that is.
This was the man with the plan. I want to thank you so much. It was Chris King. I'm telling you, the man of Dayton. He loved them Reds, and he loved them MF Daytons, bro. Like, he really rocked with the Dayton Flyers, man. I want to thank him so much. I want to thank everybody for helping me out on this journey. My dog Aaron, who's over here, who on my
Aaron,
you know what I'm saying? Always in the background. The people who the cameraman, they never get the shine that they do. So to every cameraman, to everybody who's in the background, who you don't really see on the cameras, who doing that things, I want to give you a shout out. And my name is Wright Lamar Washington Jr. I'm with Chris King, and we just did some great things, man. And ain't nothing to drink in here, but I'm gonna act like I took a sip. And hey, we out, man.
We're going, yeah.
Welcome to Snooty Podcast.